And we are back with the Survivor Angelica All Stars recap. Uh, as always, it's me, Coach Drew, joined by DB. DB, how are you doing today, man? How's your bracket looking?
What up? What up? It's you know, uh, it's early. It's early. Obviously, my philosophy, Drew, is have as many elite eight teams still in it, and so right now we're good. But obviously, that could all change at the drop of a dime. I mean, the games so far today are what they are, but tomorrow there's a whole nother slate. So who knows? Who knows?
Meanwhile, I had Wisconsin in my Final Four, so better luck next year. Today we are joined. Today we are joined by Jacob / Joseph, one of the many boots that we got in episode 3 of Survivor Angelica All Stars. And DB, just to start off, I didn't expect it to be just straight an hour and 15 with just all tribals, and so that kind of scared me like as it started to go, but I think that it's kind of stuck the landing at the end, especially having the little gap period where we go to the other tribe in between the first two and the last. What did you think about the way the episode was formatted?
I liked it. It was different. It's the first time that I've seen where it's nothing but people going home. And obviously it's less of the talky talk. It's more of we saw all of this happening in the first episode. And so now here we are, the culmination of all those alliances forming, all those talks, all those chats, all the backlash of winning and losing and how that all came to be. And it was nice. It was a good culminating episode, I believe.
And so as we go in, I know it's been a week since we last touched base. Did you have any real ideas by the time we got here of who was kind of in trouble? Because we have to get rid of 3 people from this tribe by the end of this whole thing. Was there anyone sticking out before conversation started? Because we are going to talk about that. That kind of stood out to you as, you might be screwed here.
No, not until, I mean, obviously you have your suspicions and your thoughts based on what you've seen. And obviously everyone's name gets thrown around, at some point when we talk about eliminations and tribals. But really, did things not come to fruition and us really getting to see who's going home until tribal council actually started? And I'm sure we'll get into all of that in the tribal, but that's the way I saw it personally.
Yeah, and so going right into the first tribal, we almost immediately start with the fallout, I guess, of Windowgate. Joseph, I'm assuming that you didn't know about this until maybe Ponderosa, maybe you didn't know until you watched the first episode. Thoughts on how? Oh no, you knew when it. Yeah, you knew when the challenge happened.
Yeah, I was there.
What were your thoughts on when you found out, when you guys were standing there saying, "Hey, there's going to be a penalty against this tribe because of this, that, and the other"? What were you thinking? And was there something in the back of your mind that was like, "Oh, maybe we should have tried something like
that"? Well, first of all, we all tried to open the windows, but I think weirdly we're all well-trained escape room people, and we're like, if it doesn't move, it's not meant to be touched, kind of thing that you get the spiel every time you play an escape room. So it turned out to be an escape room. So we tried to move the windows and it just didn't budge, and we're like, oh, okay, it's probably meant to be locked. And that we literally left it at that. When it came to the penalty, I think it actually lit a bit of a fire under our belly during the actual challenge to hurry even more, because we knew we had a 5-man amount of time before it kicked in. And I think, as you discussed last week, the timing actually couldn't have been more perfect of what the penalty was, because we had finished just as the time the penalty had basically finished. So it was like, it was a well-educated guess by production to do that. And I think it was, if anything, the most appropriate penalty because of how it played out.
We talked a lot about Windowgate last week, DB, and I feel like because of at least one person that goes in this episode, this might not be a lingering storyline, but I kind of want it to be, because this had like it that's the kind of stuff you're never going to see on the real show, and probably in most LRGs, because you're not going to big brain it to the point where you're actually putting a negative on your tribe. We're 3 episodes into Window Gate. Have your thoughts kind of changed about it? Do you want more Window Gate content?
I think, I think it's good. It gives us a reason to point the finger at someone, and it's clear, Drew and Joseph, you could probably chime in more than we can, but it's clear that everyone at first is taking responsibility, like it was a group decision. But I think at some point, I'm going to use that as leverage to point my finger and go, no, it wasn't me. I didn't have nothing to do with that. That was them.
I stood outside. I let
I mean, I think maybe I would have felt like that had I made it a bit further and talked to or worked with people on the other tribe to figure out what really went down. I didn't have that ability to do so. It was kind of like a funny joke after the fact. And then, and we'll probably talk about it later, the whole Ordo chaos that we didn't see too much of. We pretty much forgot about Window Gate as soon as Cryptex Gate happened.
I mean, I think Jordan's the only one that can say she didn't have anything to do with it, because I think at the moment she was given a confessional. So, like, I would blame it on her.
For anyone, and this might be a deep cut, I don't know how old. I mean, the LRG community is fairly on my side of the age line. For anyone that's ever seen the movie Mystery Men, it is an all-star cast, 1998, I believe. There's a moment where Greg Kinnear's character dies, and everyone's pointing the finger, and William H. Macy is just kind of standing in the corner and was like, well, yeah, it wasn't me. I was standing here the entire time. This is everybody else. This is not my fault. And so a question gets brought up during Tribal and it's the first messy question of the episode, of who was the ringleader. And you know what? As spread out as the votes were this entire episode, the one thing that everyone was pretty much unanimous was, we're going to stick together, and there was no one's hands are dirty. We're all equally responsible. No one's throwing anyone under the bus here. And I feel like I respected and appreciated that a lot more, especially at the end of the episode, because it was the last time that we saw everyone on the same page. So moving on, we get to the T segment. And it's a T segment because she is carrying most of the conversation. And I do kind of want to, because there's a lot of interesting theories, ideas, whatever, conversations to be had about not only LRGs, but all-star versions of LRGs, orgs, the real show, all of that, as far as how you're supposed to play, what is trying too hard, what is this, what is that. And so, T's basically saying, hey, I'm here to play the game. I'm here to do this. I'm here to do that. Like, if you're not talking, then you're not really playing the game, and it's all-stars. And if you're not out here from jump, trying to make crazy moves, then, that's not really my vibe, and you're not really playing the game. And John gives kind of the rebuttal of, some people play it differently. Some people don't have to be all out in the open. So, Joseph, I'll start with you. Your mentality when it comes to these games, for the most part, we'll put all-star, not all-star aside for now. Are you there to win, or are you there for the TV? Are you there for the audience? Are you there just to see how much fun I can have, knowing full well I probably won't win if I do it like this?
The way that I approached the game, the first game I ever did was a one-day game back in Sydney called Sydney Survivor Season 1. Shout out to anyone from Sydney Survivor watching, including Christy Bennett. Hi. And I had no fucking idea what I was doing. I've seen the show. I wrote down some notes, and I went in, and I was like, I was a bit indecisive because I was just overwhelmed. But at the same time, it was the best experience I've had in such a long time. It was like just after COVID as well, and everything was coming back, so I felt like a bit more human again. But after that, it was kind of like an itch that I just couldn't quite scratch, and the itch was, I want to win. What's the point in going all out if I don't win? And I've kind of had that mentality. I had that mentality for the next game, and I was too focused. And so I had to pare back. But I think the way that I look at these games now, it's half for fun because I actually don't care about winning that much. It's about the experience of what I learn. But secondly, it's a practice for different strategies that work or don't work, to figure out what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. For if I'm actually on the show, I've already made those mistakes and I've learned from them. And maybe I have a better, no, and it's not like I'm going into playing actual Survivor, never having done it before, ever. And some people are really great at that. I wish I could have won the first time. I didn't. And I didn't win this game, clearly.
Who's to say? There might be a redemption. I have no idea. No DB, is there a difference between how you play in an all-star game compared to just any other LR, especially with the way our community is set up, where you're almost always going to be playing in a game where you either have heard of a lot of folks, you've either played with a lot of folks, you know, so or you're just new. Is there a big difference between how one should play, whatever that means, in an all-star game compared to their first time around?
I mean, I think when you play games, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, and you're always going to look after the game and go, I would have done this, you know, and that differently. But in this particular setting, when you're talking about people who know how others play, if you all of a sudden try to change how you play, even if you are changing how you play, people still, in my opinion, they're not going to allow you to be the person that you're changing to be. They're just going to say, well, you're the same person that I've seen in X, Y, and Z game. And so if that's the case, you might as well be what you're good at. And I think what we saw in that tribal is T finally was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. You're expecting the game to just come to you. I'm going to bring it to you because that's who I am.
Yeah. It's one of the, I guess, one of the many positives of T, but like specifically that of, hey, I know what I am. I know that I'm doing this, and I'm not going to change that for the purpose of this game. And I know that it's probably not going to help me further. And even she even tries to say, hey, I'm not going to be a threat. I'm always a bridesmaid. You might as well try to keep me around. And I appreciate that. I appreciated that, and I was also glad that other people started to chime in about their mentality with the game. You know, how we all, because they all eventually raise their hand and say, "Oh yeah, like she's right," but we're either pretending to be sheepish in some people's cases, or we actually are being sheepish right now. And there's no problem with that. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. How would you play it? Like if you were somebody who's returning for a fourth or fifth game that people have seen you play and they've seen you maybe win one or win two or, you know, making the top three, like how do you go about this all-star setup?
See, I'm more social than strategic. I'm all about, hey, let's build the bonds so that you feel really bad if my name comes up. I don't want to target this person. I want to target somebody else. And also, it makes it a lot easier for me to get people on my side. Now, in an all-star type game, what I've always done is utilize, and I know people love to walk on eggshells when talking about this. Utilize the people that I already know the first few rounds so that I can build bonds with the people over here and know, hey, these people are probably not going to go after me here. Let me make good with them so that when it comes time for everyone to start going after each other, I'm kind of always going to be the person that's hands off without me ever, you know, talking loud or doing, you know, what other people feel like they have to do. That's never been my thing. It's getting everyone on my side so they go after each other. Now, I understand that is boring to a lot of people, both players and audience wise. And I always use, I love to use sports analogies. I hate the New England Patriots. I've always hated the New England Patriots. I grew up in the early 2000s. It was this kind of my thing. I have a scar on my finger from when they lost in the Super Bowl because I was that excited. They never did anything really special, and during both dynasties, even their best team was the team that didn't win the Super Bowl. They're not fun television to watch, but they win. And I think that's always been my mentality with playing these games is I don't give a shit if the audience likes me or not, or thinks that I'm boring or not. I'm trying to win the game. It doesn't really matter what these people think. It matters what these people in the game think. And if these people appreciate what I've done my job. If they don't, I'll try it again next time. I think that answers your question.
Sandra's going to have something to say about that whole New England thing. Some could say, Drew, that because it took an amazing catch on top of your head to beat you, then that means you were pretty good. I don't know. But I agree. I think that was their best team, and
I have a scar on my finger from the Tyreek catch because I jumped so high and scraped my hand off of my ceiling, and my skin still sits there at my old house to this day because I was that excited the Patriots were probably going to lose. Anyway, we've gotten off topic.
Coach, if I might jump in here quickly, just one thing thing that I noticed about playing a newbie game as opposed to playing an All Stars game was that I felt the playing field was different from a trust perspective from the start. When you play like a newbie game and you really like don't know anyone there, it's such a gray area, and you kind of lean to the caution of like, I really can't trust anyone until the first vote happens and we see where the lines in the sand are drawn. But I felt, and I will completely say, hand on my heart, no pre-gaming whatsoever, but the relationships that other people had worked with other people. When you come in here, it's like, oh, I saw you on that season and you worked with them. They're my friend. I work with them that season. So I kind of like, I trust you a bit more off the bat already, as opposed to someone that I came in like, I don't know, say James, for example. I'd never met them before, so I didn't know if I could trust them or not. But there are some people that were like a friend of a friend or like a third degree connection. And that definitely took, on one hand, it was easier to trust some people off the start. But the spectrum of who can I trust and who can I not trust was, I guess, wider, and the pendulum really swung as opposed to just kind of like hovering in the middle until the first vote happens.
Because you were not here last week, what were your thoughts on a lot of the twists and dynamics that were thrown at y'all during that first day?
It was a lot. It just felt like every round there was a different twist, there was more tokens, there was more journeys. The challenges were a lot of fun, I will say that. And I did really enjoy the way that the format, how it was with the challenges, and then there was only tribals at night, the reckoning, because it's good, especially for this size of a cast, to be able to get that interaction and not come for 2 hours and you're already out the door.
So we inevitably get a scramble. We finally get to a scramble that it feels like T was hoping would happen earlier in the day, but we finally get it here. But they're being very vocal about, hey, you guys get like 3 to 5. I can't remember the exact time, but 3 to 5 minutes, and then we're doing this. We could do this all night, but we're gonna get to the vote. DB, you got the $1 million title in your background. So they play the Undertaker's theme song, and then they don't the rest of the episode. I thought this was going to be the tribal music for every, and I think we only heard it the one time.
As a wrestling fan, I was jacked up to hear it the first time, and then I was a little disappointed to not hear it again. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's copyright infringement. There's some other things that we have to deal with, royalties paid to whoever. But I mean, we got to figure out a way to get that music back.
or bring in some Limp Biscuit next time. So we
Break stuff.
we get our first tie vote of the episode, and funny enough, Trinica is the swing vote both times. The first time, Trinica kind of throws a vote away, and we're tied here. So I know it's been a day. But we talked about it last week. Old habits die hard, and when it came down to it, people still start to latch on to previous games and all of that. Were you shocked we got a tie vote the very first round, even after what T said at Tribal, and because they were allowed to scramble a little bit more afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I think all signs were pointing to T. And I think she was starting to embrace that. What I will ask, Joseph, is when you're at Tribal, was everyone assuming it was going to be a tie where the votes are? I guess my question is, did any of that matter? What T said and the talk, did any of that matter? And the votes just ended up being what they were going to be anyways? Or did that really swing votes and decide which way people were going to go?
Joseph's on the other tribe.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
I digress. I go back. That is my question to whoever, and maybe the chat can answer it. Is what then? Like, was all that for nothing, and the vote was going to be T and Matt anyways, or what happened?
Nope. Well, T made the mess herself and caused too much chaos. Now, okay, so, and I do want to kind of go off of it because yes, she sat there and said, "Hey, this is me kickstarting the game," which basically means this is me kickstarting my game, because for all we know, the quieter folks have already started, hours beforehand. And it's interesting that, that Rachel says that, because I do feel like if everything had stayed the same at Tribal, except for there wasn't a scramble, or maybe even T just says her point and just kind of leaves it there. For me, I didn't feel like I was shocked when she got voted. I thought that something was going to happen and she would stick around to at least the second or third vote. I didn't think she was making it out of the episode, but I thought she would survive that one and have a chance to eventually fight for herself in the next two votes. She went around saying, "I said something I never said," and her stories didn't line up when people were comparing notes. And when you have 3 to 5 minutes before you have to inevitably vote, and this person has been vocal about kickstarting the game, I guess that is the only outcome that you can kind of settle on. What did you, Jacob? So Jacob. Now,
everybody's got us messed up here. I mean,
damn it!
I'm convinced that there is a Jacob. Something happened. There was a Jacob somewhere.
Jacob deserves a second chance.
The order was always T, then Matt's plus the advantage, and Shane to finish the night. That scramble was just us solidifying the vote. Okay. Yeah, I was still, based off of what I was seeing, I felt like things might get messed up, but inevitably T would go at some point. But T does go out here, and before she goes, she basically reiterates everything she said beforehand. Hey, like, y'all need to start playing the game, and this, that, and the other. And once again, and I really want to continue to talk about this, because this is a mentality that a lot of people have in this community of what's really playing the game. For me, the game is very simple: get to the end and win, and that's it. Like, whatever you do to get to that point doesn't really matter as long as you get to the end. DB, for you, I know you're a sports guy, but as someone that's in this community as well, do you feel like, I guess, quieter people, or what have you, do you feel like they aren't playing because they aren't playing up to the loudest or second loudest, third loudest person?
Yeah, I think there's a sense of that. I mean, even when I played, I wasn't the most vocal person. I think to my people, I was as vocal as I felt like I needed to be. But had I done things differently, I would have been more vocal. I would have said some more things. I would have approached more people more often. Um, but yeah, I think there is a level of like suspicion that people generate based on someone not saying anything or not saying enough.
Yeah. And Joseph, as probably a chaos person, probably, and we'll get to whether you are or not, for you, is that something that you kind of take into account? Do you look at quieter people and just assume they aren't playing, or do you look at them and say, oh, they're scheming, that's why they're not talking as much?
It's a fine balance, but there's a saying in poker where you don't play the player, you play the field. And that's understanding the players that you're up against, the way that their play styles mix with other play styles. So, and take, I don't know, but I don't know anything about NFL, but let's just say you're playing one team and they're incredibly defensive. If your team is also naturally defensive, nothing's going to happen. Someone has to make the first move, and sometimes there is a first mover advantage. But if you have two teams that are really offensive, and it's just going to end up in a blood sport where nobody comes out alive and everybody is injured and they can't play for 6 months, then the smart people will pare it back a little bit. So it's all kind of like I said, playing the field and understanding. Say for example, like chaotic player, you can play to their chaotic player, but you're only playing to them. If you're playing the field, you're realizing how does their chaos seep into other people's reactions of how they change, how they're going to play the game. And that's the kind of level that I think good play, not good players, but people that have played a good game are able to recognize. And if you can play the field with someone that is quiet, you will get more information if you look at how their quietness not just affects you. How does it affect other people? How are they changing the way that they play because this person is quiet? And not necessarily how am I only going to change my game because this person is doing this one specific thing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I love that mentality. Dude.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard in the first, like, because there is a level, I guess, for you, Joseph, you guys just made the assumption we have one mark on our flag. We know we're going to have to eliminate someone. But the cadre tribe, I'm assuming they just made the assumption that, oh, we have 3 marks, so we're going to have to eliminate 3. But that's a hefty, like, lot of people to get rid of in one particular setting. So I wonder, Drew, if they thought it could be different. Maybe the marks didn't just mean we're eliminating 3 people. Maybe it is we're going to go to tribal and something. I wonder how much was told to them as far as what those marks meant. I know that it said the reckoning, they're going to have to pay for those things, at the end of last episode. But it's still, to me, I would still feel a little bit suspicious about what those marks meant until I got there.
No, and I yeah. Oh, and Rachel says we had a good feeling it was 3 people, and I feel like feelings at this point, like when you're playing a game that's only this amount of time, you got to trust your feelings sometimes. And if you feel like, hey, this probably means we're going to be, especially because of how large the cast is, and because they haven't voted out anyone during the day. It's kind of the problem with the show proper, Survivor is running to right now. Of I think we have 9 episodes left, and I think we're only at like 19 people, which means there's going to be a lot of, like, the back half of the season is going to be a lot of just people just going out. And I think here that would kind of be the mindset of, hey, we have a lot of people here. We can't play all day tomorrow and half of Sunday, and we only vote out 1 person here tonight. So yeah, I feel like if not me, somebody on the tribe or the majority of the tribe will just kind of figure out, hey, we're probably going to have to vote enough people out tonight for it to make sense to not have a tribal until.
Yeah, and one thing it will do is you've seen this in other games. Yeah, Rachel, I agree. Prepare for the worst type situation, whatever that is. At least you have a plan for it. You know, this also will help keep people from, as the game goes on, from just throwing challenges. Because if you throw a challenge, you're going to get a mark. And if that mark means you got to go, like, you really start thinking about the dynamics and the mechanic of the game with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see if that dynamic of the game goes into day 2. You know, whether it's we're going to do bulks of voting, or if we're going to do, you know, the normal challenge vote. I'm curious to see where this goes next. But on to the second tribal, and we start with an auction. So our coins are going to come into play right now. Basically, whoever bids the most gets basically a variation of the shot in the dark, where basically they can stay and they can vote, and they also get 2 tokens and to get a shot at being safe in the event. But they don't know that until after they win. And Meg eventually wins. Meg doesn't wins the auction, doesn't win when it comes to the shot in the dark. What did you think about this, DB? Like,
look,
because they don't say what it is, and so everyone's bidding a lot of coins on this first advantage. We don't know, but
I just feel like at this point, with all of the things that are in the game, I feel like you have to go for this. If you think you have the opportunity to win, you have to take whatever comes with it. And to be honest, you get a version of Plinko, and as a kid missing school, the only thing to watch is Price is Right, and like you crave for the day that Plinko's on. Like, that's the game, bro. That is the game.
It's Price is Right and Young and the Restless for me, and soap operas. Yeah, and I will say that I do agree with you. I think for me, I would be overly paranoid that they're going to throw something like this at us. Like, I do think inevitably it's going to be like a straight up, hey, here's an idol that you just won because you wagered all of this. Like, because in my head, the first option is never going to be the best one, and that's just probably how I think. And so we get most people bidding a lot of coins here, and it does seem pretty easy to get coins. So I don't think that Meg's gonna hate it too much. She'll get her coins back at some point. Joseph, for you, and this is going back to the previous 2 episodes, how much stock did you put into the currency? Like, did you think that it was going to play a big role, or did you think it was okay? Yeah, it'll be a cute little dynamic, but it won't ultimately impact anything.
I think with the amount that we saw, including just like the Easter egg coin hunt that we did when we first got there, and everyone just scouring the entire campsite for these, and then the fact that we get 1 for win or 2 for winning, I think, and then people that lost still got ones. You could like really like add them up, and then people were going on journeys, and like when I went on my journey, I'm pretty sure we were transparent that we got a coin or 2 out of it as well. So from the outset, I think people knew like there was a lot of cash going around, to the point that we were a self-sufficient economy for a point in time. But as far as I'm aware of like sharing coins, I don't think. I mean, I wasn't privy to any of that happening on Audio, at least. But I definitely. I mean, if you get an advantage, you can fuck it up and it doesn't have any effect whatsoever, or could really change the tide of the game. So I really erred on the side of kind of caution that this could give someone an advantage that they could use to turn the tide of the game in their favor or against mine and make it harder for me. So I tried to treat it seriously, but also subconsciously, so I wasn't being like running around like Mr. Krabs, just being like money, 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 money. You don't want to do that.
So we get to the second vote, and it ties again. But inevitably, Matt does go home. DB, final thoughts on Matt here, who caught a lot of votes in 2 tribals.
Yeah, I think given the fact that these are back to back is a bad spot for Matt, given that the first tribal went the way that it went. And I think inevitably, I'm shocked that it came down to a tie, but I think we all knew which way it was going to go after that first vote.
Yeah, I was shocked by the T1. I was more shocked that the vote tied here.
Yeah.
I thought it would just be a simple, okay, we're done here. Let's come back in however long to do our third one. So we get to the third tribal, and this is where Jacob is born. The character of Jacob is born at this tribal, and it's Taylor versus Joseph at first, though. Before Jacob is introduced, we have Taylor versus Joseph, kind of going off of what happened towards the end of last episode, but apparently even things going before that. So from your perspective, where did this in-game beef come from?
I think this is a case of like the worst possible scenario of Chinese whispers going like terribly wrong. Because I think part of this whole beef was that I was trying to tell everyone that I'm being as transparent as possible, which in my experience, from my own personal experience, as soon as I realized I didn't lock the fucking box, I'm like, I can't dig myself any further. This is as bad as it's probably going to get. So like, I told people the code. I told people what I found. I showed them the screwdriver if they asked. And if people asked me a question, I would answer it. I was not going to give up extra information if someone didn't. Why not throw Taylor and I more on the bus because we know? That is a good question, Alan, because this is fast forwarding a little bit. That one thing I do regret is not teeing up with a couple of people to say, guys, if Alan doesn't play his safety without power, just fucking vote for Alan. He's a dead duck in the water. Why not do that? And I wish I think I said that to Sandra, but I never really tee back with anybody else about that. And it would have been a great plan. The reason why I didn't want to throw Alan under the bus was because he was actually the only person talking to me. And I think the only person he actually looked me in the eyes at Tribal Council when I was like giving my pitch and stuff. And he was giving me these puppy dog eyes. And I just couldn't do it. And I didn't have any information that really Taylor positively had the idol. There was this whole thing about me seeing her pick up a scroll when we were doing like our escape room challenge. And that's true. I did see her pick up a scroll. I don't know and I didn't see whether she opened it or used it as a part of the game, because there were scrolls in the challenge that you had to open and read and give instructions on like another task to do in the escape room. But maybe there was an advantage in there. I don't know. I just told people what I saw. It wasn't a lie. And I really think it was everyone else that ran away with it that made it much more than it needed to be and snowballed into that. And there was another small thing about, it was really funny. We were sitting around the fire and there was a string outside of Taylor's tights that were inside her pants or something. And it was like me, Angela, Sandra, and Kiri. And we were just looking there, just all laughing at each other because it just looked bad. And it possibly purely believable that it was just a string from something else that we'd all been given. Like we all had a string for something. I think maybe it was a shot in the dark we had a string for, or anyway, everyone had a string. So it was that. So I really think the beef came down to things being taken out of context by other people. I really didn't try to blow up anyone's game in particular. And people kept asking me, did you see Taylor do this? And I'm like, you asked me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. And did I see her pick up something? Did I see something in her pants? I did. I don't know what the fuck it means, but I did. You asked me the question, and it kind of all just like snowballed from there. And I guess like being sketchy from the outset because I didn't lock the box. Just put a target on my back immediately. It was quite easy and probably like strategic for other people to really like take things that I've said either out of context or blow it out of proportion to fling it back at me because everything that was flung at me stuck, apparently.
So, I mean, you kind of touched on my next question then. How chaotic were you actually being? How messy were you actually being?
I don't believe I was being that messy. I really think it's everyone else's opinion. And that's fine. They're also entitled to have incorrect opinions. That's fine. It's just an opinion. but I really, like, I wasn't throwing anyone on the bus. I wasn't trying to cock up elaborate plans to try and keep me safe. I mean, the best that I could do was say like, hey, maybe I do have it, maybe I don't. I don't really think that shit's stirring. I think that's just using the cards that I have in the most effective way of like, I'm a gamble if you vote on me because you really don't know. But I really didn't try to push any other narrative other than I wasn't going to drive the bus to kill myself and take out everyone with me I wasn't going to drive off the cliff and not let everybody out first kind of thing. Like, that's not what I was planning to do. It's not, I don't think how I would want to play either. Could I have done more? I mean, probably I could have maybe, when I came and I showed everyone that I opened the crypt decks and everything, and there was this whole hurrah of like, does he have it? Does he not have it? I think maybe I should have said to people like Sandra and Angela that I was good with, and they were like, well, we see the writing on the wall, we can't really do much. And I'm like, I appreciate the honesty, but maybe I should have said I did have my vote back. Maybe that could have changed the tide, but then I would have to deal with the consequences later on.
Ashley says, I didn't necessarily think you were throwing people under the bus. Things you were saying just wasn't lining up for some of us. And I mean, some people do say that in both Voting Confessional and at Tribal. Any rebuttal to that?
Did I have the exact same conversation with 9 other people on the tribe, or 10, however many, I forget how many people were there? Did I have the exact same amount of disclosure with everyone? No, but that's just the game. So some people would have more information, some people have less. And then when people compare notes and someone has 5 chapters and someone has 1, it's well, like, I sat down with that person and we wrote those 5 chapters together, but I've only had enough chance to do 1 chapter with you. So if things didn't line up, it's just because maybe you had less information than you thought you did. So that's on them.
DB, I have a very serious question to ask you, and you can answer it honestly or not. Were you a marker huffer in school, and or you could still be one now, because Jacob Joseph is. Do you huff markers?
God! I was like, what the fuck? What's a huff marker?
I think the scented ones. I think everyone has to. Like, it just, you can't have the flavored scent and then not do it. It's tough. So yes, I guess to answer your question, yes.
I grew up in a household where we couldn't afford the nice smelling ones, so we just had the petrol ones. So it's weirdly nostalgic for me. So I think that's why I just wanted one last high before I left, right?
No, I for some reason and it was probably because just other things going on in my life at that point. I laughed very hard during that scene, because you couldn't vote. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to pretend to vote, and in the meantime, I'm going to get my jollies off and sniff this. And I thought it was great. I think it was instead of the marker. Yeah, I played enough.
It was also a comically big marker. It wasn't like just a pen. It was like, it was chunky. It had some weight to it.
We also get our second auction of the episode, which Ashley wins. And similar to Meg, does not win a safety without power in this moment, and everyone's obligated to play it at the tribal that they win it in. You bid what? 12, 13? I know you had double digits. How much did you have?
I think I had 12, I want to
Okay.
say. Yeah.
Once you don't win that, do you know it's game over for you, or do you think there's still a chance?
I mean, I always thought there was a chance. I mean, I'm not gone until the majority of votes are read, and that's my name. So I was just kind of like, I don't know, maybe something happens. But was I mentally checked out? Yes.
So yeah, it was definitely over because we were trading coins before we even got there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a as good a chance as any, but ultimately we do get enough votes for Joseph and one vote for Jacob. And I asked you this before we went live. Did you know who Jacob was, and when did you find out who it was if you didn't?
No, if you ask me, did I know the person, or did I know that the person who wrote the name down, Jacob, was the person that I carpooled with and like D&M'd the whole way there for the 3 hours from the airport, and clearly knew my name then. Sorry, James. No, I did not. And I think I found out sometime through Ponderosa the next day. And I was it was just oh, no, that's a bit disappointing. But it was funny.
And it's one of the things with these games, especially these games that are shorter. It's like, yeah, after a while, everyone does kind of blend together, and it's not like you were called, I don't know, Richard or something, but still. And the fact that as they're reading this, like, until Jacob gets another vote, we're just going to keep on voting. Like, we're just going to keep on written votes as if we just have one vote, Jacob. I thought that was the cherry on top of this tribal.
Yeah, I think it really really sealed the deal of like it was just an absolute shit show from start to finish.
DB, thoughts on our new player getting immediately voted out before he gets a chance to catch his legs.
If only the Jacob vote would have made a difference. Like if there would have been some sort of tie and that Jacob vote not counting because we don't know who Jacob is, then I think that would have been great. Unfortunately for Joseph, the odds were stacked against you, man. I think it looks like in the chat, based on what everyone's saying, is they were pretty much in line. They knew that what they had to do. Even Ashley and Alan talking about giving each other coins or tokens prior to, just to make sure they had the advantage. That kind of stinks. But I mean, overall,
yeah, I think
awesome.
I worked out that maybe in a perfect world, it could have been a plurality vote on somebody else, taking into account that Jacob vote. But I think the stars would really have to have aligned,
Drew,
and it was just having what happened that day. That was just not going to happen.
Drew, my question is let's say Meg does, win safety. Who does, then what? Like, I feel like at that point people are like, oh, is it easy? Do you think it's easier like to become safe? You're getting 2 shots. Like, I don't know.
Well, and I think because we have 3 people play Shot in the Darks this episode.
Right.
Or not Shot in the Darks. Oh yeah, I guess we have 5 chips go down the thing at one point or another.
I'm just going to pop out for a second, guys.
Oh,
Sorry, but I'll be back in like 5 minutes. Sorry,
okay,
I've got a work thing. Yeah.
I think that if this happens again, if we get to a tribal and someone plays a shot in the dark, someone does something, whatever you can possibly think of, something happens before a vote. I do think that there is a possibility that people could decide, hey, let's do this. Let's vote this other person. I think in this spot, if we're just talking about the Joseph boot, you know,
Yeah.
Ashley does her thing and Taylor does her thing, and neither one of them hit. But I don't. I mean, based off of what the chat is saying and based off of what Joseph's kind of alluded to / said, it doesn't seem like any other outcome was even really even or like on the table. Now, on the Meg end, you know, the first tribal, the second tribal that because Megan's in the second tribal.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like Meg was in any jeopardy there either, because it does seem like that was kind of scripted alliance wise, like, hey, this is exactly what we're going to do. The third tribe or the fourth tribal, where she does, I think she catches a lone vote in that situation. It could be, hey, she had enough tokens to do this. Maybe we try to nip this in the bud before she gets even more, because she did have a lot more than the next, or well, than everybody else. This woman's great at finding tokens. Maybe we want to get this out now. So we have, for us, it was keeping whatever it was out of Joseph's hands.
What about Sandra? If Ashley wins, Ashley wins her shot in the dark, who does Sandra throw her rogue vote on?
Because I think she names 2 or 3 people that she's just not going to vote for, and so it's more of a if Ashley's hits, then yes, Sandra, there's still enough people that Sandra could throw a rogue vote on almost anyone else. But we give her answer right here. We don't even have to wait. It's very interesting with all of these twists, all of these mechanics in this game, and this game to only be basically a weekend plus 1. How long did they extend this? It's gonna be a fun ride, especially because we have now 2 players that have lost most of their tokens, and we have 1 player who has now played their shot in the dark. That kind of whittles down some of the many things that we have in this game up to this point. And I don't think we did winner picks last week, so start thinking about that, because we're going to do that at the end of the episode. Okay. So we lose Jacob and Joseph in one fell swoop, and we go back to the beginning. And I think at this point there was like maybe 8-9 minutes left in the episode. Okay, so we still have tokens to play with. So it's going to be even longer ride.
I think Culp said earlier in the chat she had like $100 in tokens.
I thought that was an exaggeration. I didn't think that was actually.
Clearly, she had a shit ton of tokens.
I thought that was an exaggeration. So yeah, we have about 10 minutes left in the episode. And it seems we do get back to a lot of the conversation that's being held during the first 2. Just how all-star games are supposed to be played, what's playing the game, what's not playing the game. It's basically a retread of what's happened in the first 35-40 minutes of the episode. But inevitably, Shane goes out. I think Meg catches the other vote. And it's pretty much just ends there. And yes, but I was okay. So even if it wasn't 100, it was damn near close. Or whatever the comparison is, the exchange rate when you play Angelica was probably 100. So yeah, I guess I'm more interested now to see how much of Ashley's coins come more into play moving forward. While we wait for Joseph to come back, DB, final thoughts on the Shane boot, the Joseph boot, any of the boots in the episode, as well as anything else that you want to touch on in the episode before we do get to some winner picks. I think 3 episodes is long enough for us to have some idea.
Yeah, I think, you start the ball rolling with this first reckoning sacrifice. You know, T gets this thing going. You know, shout out to T. All right, she did exactly what she said she was going to do, which is force people to start playing the game. It leads to a tie vote. The next reckoning sacrifice leads to another tie vote. But inevitably, I think the two people that they wanted out in those two votes were eliminated. You go to Ordo with the vote, and it seems like that's the vote that they wanted was Joseph. They wanted Joseph out, and they got it done. And then the final, it looked like Shane was the guy, plays shot in the dark to start, and you know it ends up being him anyway. So the ball is rolling. So regardless of whether T finished first or first eliminated, she got the thing going, and you know, tip my hat to her. Let's go.
Just a quick side note for anybody that likes college basketball. VCU came back from 19 down and beat North Carolina. Just got that update on my phone. Just got that update on my phone. Holy shit. Sorry for everyone's brackets that messes up. Yeah, my final thoughts, and I've brought this up multiple times throughout the episode. I think that's there's a fallacy in the way that a lot of people think about these games as far as like what's actually playing and what's not, because if you use the real show as a blueprint, there have been more social winners that have won the game than people that are very bombastic that just kind of do. And I feel like when people come into these live games, they feel like they have to do that because Tony did it. It's like, yeah, Tony's one of like 3 players to ever win by being the person that did a whole bunch of shit. And so I'm always pulling for the people that are, you know, more calm and calculated, that are trying to read the room and figure out what's my best, what should I do here based off of everything that I am seeing. And I do feel like there are a lot of people in this season that have that mentality, or at least 3 episodes in, it seems like there are a lot of people that have that mentality. So I'm curious to see who breaks first and decides, hey, maybe I should do something crazy just for shits and gigs. Winner picks. Well, we can do 2 just to keep everything interesting. We can do 2 picks. I think I know who I'm going to go with. I'm gonna go with my. I really don't want to go with my heart, because if I go with my heart, I'm gonna just pick people that. But anyway, who we got?
For me, I'll give you one for sure. Okay. And I think just she's rich. She's got tokens. I mean, she's got whatever this currency is. She's got a lot of it. She's surrounding herself with the right people. She's getting people to ensure that she's winning these safety measures. So give me Ashley.
You stole one of mine, but whatever. You went first. But Ashley, like, especially based off of everything that's happened, and not even just the currency thing, just like it just feels like I don't know how this is edited. I don't know if it's trying to tell a story or whatever. I feel like Ashley has a really good chance right now. And my other one, okay, so I'll do one heart, one head. I'm gonna do Meg for my heart choice because I love Meg. I think that might be it. And so for Joseph Jacob, I'll stay here until he gets back. We'll end the stream, but when Joseph Jacob gets back, I'll do my goodbyes. I want to thank everyone in the chat for chiming in today. It was quite an episode. We've got 4 tribal councils in an hour and 15. DB, thank you as always. No storms this time. We made it through. Once again, love your belts in the background, and hoping that the season continues on the trajectory that it's like. I think we're in for a good ride here. DB, final thoughts?
No, man, appreciate it as always. Much love to the LRG community. Much love to all of the people, the creators out there with these games, allowing us to come on here, and obviously Drew and I get to talk about it, but also we get to play them too. So that's the bonus. So appreciate everybody out there that's in the community, man.
All right. Well, then we will see you all next week. Thank you and enjoy.